And so what was your first impression of Lawton High School?
Scared to death. Well, junior high school, I was scared.
Why was that?
Oh, so many kids. That darn bell ring, and every so often you had to get books and run back to the locker, and I couldn't remember my locker combination. And just too many kids. I wasn't used to that. That was back when the teachers, they made your mind. They get by with it. Nowadays you can't. The kids rule the school, I think. I'm sure it was a lot more calm than I was in junior high school, but it was a lot faster. And you couldn't carry books from one class to another.
And why was that?
You had to go back to your locker. Looked like a bulldog.
Glenn Dosser?
Yeah, looked like a bulldog.
Glenn Dosser?
Yeah, old ugly, real fine guy. Looked like a bulldog. Married a real pretty girl, Miss Neville.
Oh.
We used to make her cry in class. She's a real pretty girl, a real pretty lady.
She was a beautiful lady, Mildred.
Yeah, Mildred Neville. And Lily Stafford was such a good lady. Right. Very strict. Kids in her class that made C's and D's were honor students in college. They were A students in college. She didn't have any A students. Or maybe one, Dan Andrews. In fact, Dan Andrews is the one that developed the sonar for the submarines as a civilian. Well, in high school, wife and I both got expelled at the same time. We had a pep rally one Friday at about 11:30. Yeah, pep rally. We're going to play Lawton. Lawton's going to play Duncan, which was always quite a football game. And we got the assembly was over about 15 till 12. So I had my dad's car that day. And I took Dorothy home, and I went home and went down and picked Dorothy up. Then they didn't have lunch programs or anything. And I was back in class. I think it was in Mildred Neville's class, French 2. And so I tapped me on the shoulder and said, go report to Miss Ross. Katie Ross was the study hall lady. Went in there and they had all the kids move over, and then Dorothy and I were sitting there too, and we were the only 12th graders, and 2 or 3 other kids that played hooky, so-called. And Becker come in, chewed us out, said he wasn't going to let us graduate.
Wow.
And, we should have gone back to class. But anyway, he said, get back in your class, get out here, get back. I don't want to look at you again. So that was, for us, that was quite an ordeal. It scared me pretty much. In fact, the horseshoe thing, Becker had put out a thing that we would no more longer have the Sugarfoot Stomp, was one of the yells. And
what was that?
There's a yell that you did, and then everybody did this. But anyway, you stomped your feet at a certain point in this Sugarfoot Stomp. And Marvin Trope, whose folks had Trope's thing, I was 11th grader, and Marvin was a senior, and he had us do the Sugarfoot Stomp. And we were up in the balcony, and we stomped, and all the plaster fell down from underneath on the kids. And oh man, B.C. Swinney got up there, and if he didn't chew us out, shoo. Yeah. I know when the wife and I were going together about sometime in the 12th grade, probably, gas went from 13 cents to 15 cents a gallon. And that's back when I didn't do it, but a lot of people used Oklahoma credit cards. You ever see one?
No.
It's a rubber hose. Yeah, that's what they were called, Oklahoma credit cards.
And why don't you tell us what they did with that, in case people don't know?
Well, you stuck it in the gas tank and had a gallon can, or a 5-gallon can, and you sucked the gasoline out of your neighbors. In fact, I was trying to think of his name, Southwestern Stationery. He bought a Volkswagen.
Workington?
No, the guy that worked for him. Banta. They lived right down the street. He bought a Volkswagen. Dick Ford lived across the street, about 4 or 5 of us. And he's always bragging about his mileage. And what we'd do, we'd go down there and put gas in his car, in this little Volkswagen. He'd get 70 and 80 and 90 miles a gallon. And then Dick Ford went down there and drained gas out of his tank. And he'd run out of gas. And he hated that Volkswagen. My mother got a evening in Paris thing. My dad got her, I think, for one Christmas. All kind of blue. with sunk things that had 4 or 5 different bottles in it.
Perfume.
Yeah, perfumes. I went down to Cress's, got a gallon of a quart jug of, I think it's called Ben-Hur, about 25 cents a bottle, about like a quart. And I filled those things up and wrapped it and gave to Miss Neville for a Christmas present. She just tickled to death. As in French, too. You know. And I'd filled her bottle with Ben-Hur. She thought it was the finest stuff in the world.
Oh, and it was Ben-Hur another kind of perfume?
Yeah, it was, well, you bought it at Cress's, I think it's 25 cents a quart.
Right. How did you propose to Dorothy?
I think up on Mount Scott, there's a big rock up there, I tell everybody. And she was chasing me one night, and I run into this big rock and broke it. She was chasing me. I think that's where
And she got you.
I think that's where we got engaged. And then when I went to Emerson, to McKinley, she came there as principal there, and you weren't supposed to. Then the softball was actually softball, and we were supposed to knock the ball away from the building, and I knocked it and knocked the window out of the second story. Got in trouble. And then Laureen Hennessy, Ralph Hennessy's Chief Police, his sister and I, on Fridays we always had a spelling contest. And she and I were always the 2 top spellers. She always, but anyway, on our desk we had inkwells then and staff pens. Didn't have bladder fountain pens, and she had long braids, and I put her braids in that. It's her fault for moving, and it got all over her dress. And boy, Miss Grundy whipped me. I'm telling you, the good Lord's been good to me. I had a good life. Had a good wife. Had 3 sons. I lost the oldest son when he was 46 years old. He's a great big man. Died of leukemia. Very, very smart. Very, very. He's one of the top A students in the school system in Lawton. And he died of leukemia. Had 4 children.
Oh.
They're all grown now. All have families. I have 8 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. I pay them $5 a piece not to come over. It's a lot cheaper. No, my wife and I, we enjoyed them.
I bet you
Yeah.
did.